Okay, guys, we're live once again. It seems to be more stable with this, so it must have been just the other room, maybe me leaving and going in and out. I don't know, has something to do with it. I don't know, honestly, but we're gonna try to go onto this. So let's just pick up here, and then we can talk about some of the other guests and maybe some stories from them. There's one there's a few on here that are near and dear, but there's one in particular who's very near to me. He was the next guest on, but Daily Renegade, your YouTube channel was deleted. You lost all of those, but people need to know they can go to Daily Renegade YouTube channel 2.0 and subscribe. So I am going to actually right now, I'm going to put that in the chat as soon as, and then as soon as I do this, I remembered my thought that I left off on that I wanted to pick up from there. So as soon as I find your channel, maybe you even have it up.
Yeah, it's youtube.com/JPD Weekly. That's the name of the channel.
You got that? You got that, guys?
Yeah, I can even.
Yeah, you can put it in there. I think maybe, or I can't. Tell me again. I'll put it in there.
Yeah, it's telling me to sign into chat, and it's. Hang on, I can. Yeah, it's youtube.com/JPD Weekly, and let me see here.
There, I got it in. I got it in there. We're good.
Right. Yeah, I've been having trouble because they deleted our channel, so I got to do this weird workaround to even get in the chat, and yeah, it's just not even letting me in the chat right now.
I don't know. So we were talking about being public personas. Now, I remember years ago. And this was back when Hagman and Hagman was still Blog Talk Radio. I mean, This is very early on before a lot of people had ever heard of him. I had found Hagman and Hagman Radio on Blog Talk. So that tells you I'm just one of the old guys, I guess. This is 9 years ago or whatever. And they would talk about how they were, being attacked on the internet. And then spiritually, things were coming against them and all this stuff. And I was like, I can understand how there are a few people out there crazy and other, but as often as he's talking about it, it's sounded a little over the top now or whatever, it's kind of a little over the top, but I didn't say, I just kind of kept myself, a little over the top with that. You don't need that, Doug. People love you and we're praying for you. Okay. So then, fast forward years later, and John Pounders with Now You See TV asked me to start. If I wanted to start the Disputed Lands the day after I had prayed about what the Father wanted me to do going forward. I go on there, and I wasn't 2 episodes in, and oh my goodness,
yeah,
the spiritual attacks, the internet, 10 times worse than it was now, things happening. I was like, these guys weren't joking when it comes to, or playing around when it comes to the spiritual attacks. When you start, putting enough, out there to a bunch of people, the enemy just really doesn't like it. And by golly, those attacks are real and they come. And I was like, okay, I was wrong. I was just totally wrong about the spiritual attacks that come on somebody who's trying to do this and be in this kind of ministry full time, because it's real, and you have to be prayed up and wear that armor every day, because otherwise you're going to get kicked to the curb in a hurry. So, but one of the people that I've been in this battle with too was our second guest on, Dr. Mike Spalding.
Oh, I love Mike. Yeah.
How did you guys run across Mike?
Oh my gosh!
What's your first memories? I'll ask each of you. What's your first memories of Mike?
Yeah, so we actually didn't know Mike until we did a conference with him. And what was really surprising to both of us this morning, when we got kids. We didn't have time to watch every single video in totality, but we watched the intro of all of your videos today. And what really it surprised us in a really good way, but that Mike Spalding, Pastor Mike Spalding, Dr. Mike Spalding, I mean, he said that my videos like inspired him to talk about some of this stuff with his church, and that blew my mind, because I didn't know that. It goes to show you, like, you never know the reach that you're gonna have. Like when I was, because he was talking about videos that I did years ago, back when I didn't think anybody was listening, and the fact that inspired a pastor of a church to actually like talk about some stuff. My main thing, one of the main things that I keep preaching about, ad nauseum to people. I mean, they're almost sick of hearing it. Is that, look, you got to show love to your brothers and sisters in Christ, even if you disagree with them. And as far as I know, me and Mike don't agree. We don't disagree on anything. So we as far as I know, we agree on basically everything. But the thing is, you don't know how far your post will reach. So these people that disagree, and it's fine to disagree, but when they actually put hatred into it, and when they want to blast everybody, like I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, the pre-tribulation rapture is a lie from hell, or the pre-wrath rapture is a lie from hell, the mid-trib, the post-trib rapture, all this stuff, it's a lie from hell. Anything that doesn't agree with the original post, the original posters' preconceived notions, must be a lie from hell. You don't know how far those posts reach. I mean, Prince, when Prince had died, they found one of Steve Quayle's books in his belongings. He read one of Steve Quayle's books about giants. Prince, of all people. You do not know how far your post can reach. So when I see other Christians posting just this hateful stuff, just because somebody disagrees with them, my whole thing has been, look, show love to your brothers and sisters in Christ. So it really meant a lot to me, and to just, exemplify that point. I did not know that when I was first starting out, that my posts were going to influence a pastor of some church in where's he, Illinois or Ohio or something. I didn't know that it was going to influence somebody like that. I had no idea. So my videos were already influencing some of the stuff that he was talking about before I even met him. And then I met him. And then I actually got to meet this guy, and he's amazing. He is wonderful. Like, I love Mike Spalding. He has been just such a good friend to Christina and I. And just calm and reserved, and he's careful about, like, what because he wants to make sure that he tells people the truth. He's good about differentiating between opinions and actual objective facts. Like, he's just good with all of that, and that's why he keeps getting invited back to all these conferences, because he's trustworthy. I mean, he's just a good guy. Like, he's a good source of information, but he's also, that's just how he is in person as well. He's not different in person. And I've talked to him on camera, off camera. Both of us have. We've had the blessing of being able to do conferences with this guy, and I mean, he's just great. Like, he's a really good resource of not only good factual information, because he'll tell you if something's his opinion or not, but also he's just a good brother in Christ to have. And so, yeah, Mike Spalding. I don't have enough goodness. I mean, I'm actually getting goosebumps right now just talking about him, because I didn't know that my earlier work back when I didn't think anybody was listening. I didn't know that it had any impact on anybody, let alone somebody. And I just found that out today. I've known Mike for a couple of years, and I feel like we're pretty good friends. And I didn't know that my earlier work had that influence on him, and like that to me is so meaningful. But also, it should be a teaching tool for other people that post online, because at that time I was posting stuff not realizing anybody was listening. So for the audience, when you post stuff online, you don't know who's listening and you don't know who's being influenced by it. So do you want to spread a message of love, or do you want to spread a message of hate?
Right.
If you want to hate your brother in Christ, you're going to spread that out. There are going to be pastors that will listen to that, and their whole church is literally, and I'm not saying this derogatorily, just literally their church is going to go to hell because of your stupid post. I mean, that kind of stuff happens. Or you could be an inspiration. You can post something that's actually helpful and good and loving, because that's something that I long time ago, before I was anybody, like back when I was just doing stupid stuff, I posted just hateful stuff. I was one of these internet trolls because I thought that was the way to go. I thought, like, if you want to make a name for yourself, because at the time I was thinking that's what's most important, then that's the way to go. You blast people who disagree with you. Like I actually behaved that way, and it was because I was seeing people that I respected at the time doing the same thing, so I thought it was okay, because in my spirit I was thinking, well, if I follow along with them and if it's wrong, God will judge them. He won't judge me. That's wrong, by the way. God absolutely will judge you. It doesn't matter. You cannot shift the blame onto somebody else. Right. If you're engaging in this online hatred garbage, if you're contributing to it, everybody has been influenced by somebody else. So you can't pass that buck forever. Everybody pays for what they've said. Everybody has got to answer for what they have said. And people tend to think, well, I'm not saying it, I'm writing it online. All right, you're typing something, you're writing words online. So do you think that the apostles are not going to be rewarded for the words that they wrote in the Bible? I mean, that's just written words. They, maybe they said it, but we don't know. I mean, they wrote it. Are they not going to be rewarded for that? If they're rewarded for the words that they wrote, you will have to answer for the words that you write too. And that was a big wake up call to me. So I had to stop following those people. Mm-hmm. Not going to name any names, but I had to stop following those people, because I really believe today that the enemy was using those people to try to get me off of the right path. Yes. So I just got sick of that, and I realized, okay, what can I talk about here? I can't just keep blasting people. I got to talk about something real. And then God really showed me that it was my own pride that was causing me to do that. So thank God, and this is all glory to Jesus, none of mine, but thank God none of those posts, as far as I know, those posts are dead. Like those, I've never heard any, like I've even talked at conferences how I used to be an internet troll. I've never heard anybody or came across anybody that said, yeah, I used to read, your stuff back then. Like I've never heard that. Thank God that he killed all of that. I don't think that had an influence, but that's a special situation. That's not going to be the same for everybody. When you make an online post that is just directly attacking somebody, right, other people are going to be influenced by that. So what do you want to be? Do you want to influence hate, or do you want to influence love? So that's why it meant so much to me this morning, and to Christina, to both of us, to hear that right when I was coming out of that, and I was actually starting to, because I remember what he was talking about. I remember the actual video and like what we were talking about today, those earlier presentations. I was talking about like the difference between forgiveness and trust. You got to forgive people. It doesn't mean you have to trust them, but you still have to love your enemy. It doesn't mean you have to trust them with your lives if they, are wanting your destruction. Yeah, there's all these nuances, and I was talking about that stuff. It really meant a lot that he was influenced by that. So I did not know that before today, because Mike Spalding is just that kind of guy. He never told me that, because he's just an awesome guy, and he's a good friend. He never brought that up with me until like just this interview with you. So I didn't know that before today, but man, that meant a lot to me. Like that really meant a lot to me. I did not know that just the stupid little stuff I was doing years and years ago had that big of an impact on somebody, especially the pastor of the church.
What's your first memory of Mike or running across Mike? Was it the same time as
It
Josh,
was
or
the
have
same
you
time
run
with
into?
Josh, meeting him at a conference. Yep, it was the same
Okay,
exact time.
great.
And
Now I got a similar story to that, Josh. I worked in the hospital before I did this current job in a former life. This was now probably how long? It's greater than 15 years ago now. Holy smokes! I mixed chemo at a hospital. That was what I did for 9 years. I mixed chemo for adults mostly, and then for the last couple of years, I mixed for pediatrics. I mixed the chemo, and me being who I was, you know, when you work in a medical field, and anybody who works in the medical field will tell you, there's two ways. There's two ways you can do it. You can make yourself be totally detached. You're there to earn a check. It's just like any other job. You're just doing the requirements for your job. You're in and out, and they don't get to know the people that they take care of.
Right.
Kind, you're polite. They do just what is needed. You're just another piece of meat in the bed. But there are others, and this is the more sacrificial and harder way to go about it, but also the most rewarding, who gets to know and love and care for, as a person, everybody that comes into their care, who is they are responsible for. They listen to 1,000 times people tell them about their lives, their stories, what their little stories that they're never going to remember again. They make it important to make sure that that person knows they're listening to them while they take care of them, get to know their lives. When you work in oncology, as you guys have explained before, it's not just like most of the other beds in a hospital where somebody's in 1 week, you don't see them again, perhaps ever. Maybe it's years down the line that they would ever be back in the hospital again, right? They never see them again. But in oncology, you get to know people. They are in there week after week, sometimes for days, 2 and 3 days every week, week after week. And you get to know people. Well, the nurses and the physicians who directly care for them, it's pretty easy. For me, mixing chemo, I never had or should have had direct patient contact. I could very easily mix the chemo, go put it where it was supposed to be for the nurses to get it, go back and do my job. And as far as the people know, they'd never know me. Not me. I made a point that anytime I had to go drop off the chemo or whatever, if I could, being wise about the situation, I'd knock on the door, introduce myself. Hey, I'm the guy mixing your chemo. Oh, by the way, I'm praying for you. I didn't care. I'm praying for you too. And that opened the door many times for conversations to begin. Now, the most intensive kind of chemo I mixed was for the bone marrow transplants. These high doses, high intensity chemo that wipes out their bone marrow so that they could be re-sewn with other bone marrow, right? And grafted, basically. Very critical process, our Father is so much better at what he does when he heals somebody, but man's way. There was this gentleman, last name of Gilbert, by the way.
Any relation?
I don't know if he was relation or not, but he was a well-known businessman in Indianapolis, but he was on the board of Christian businessmen here in Indianapolis who met. But I didn't know that until afterwards. But I prayed for him. I talked with him and really got to know the guy, liked him. He told me a little bit about who he was. But during this bone marrow transplant, I was moved strongly that day that I needed to pray for him and to give him a message. And so that morning, as I was getting ready to go to work, and I saw that his light was on his room as I was walking, because where the rooms were, I went in and got a post-it note on there, and I wrote a note: "Be angry and sin not." And I went and I posted that on his window, and I knocked. He's sitting on his bed. He's like this and everything. I get up. I knock on knock on the window. He kind of looks up. I said, again, he goes, like he's tired. And I said, I don't care. Come here. And he was like, I could tell, it was this kind of mood. And I put that Post-it note on there. And he saw that, and he immediately just broke down. And I could tell it was the word for him at the moment. Fast forward the story, long story short. So he goes to the bone marrow transplant. Now, he did eventually die like 3 or 4 years later after the bone marrow transplant. I'm not going to talk about whether that's, whatever. During that 3 or 4 years, he wrote a book that included there was a book written in which his testimony was put in, and his chapter was called The Happiest Time of My Life. And he included that little bit of our interaction together in his testimony, and it ended up in 12 chapters of this book. It was written by Dave Dravecki, who is this professional baseball pitcher who had lost his pitching arm to cancer. It was who later became a Christian. So this man's testimony and my portion in it contributed to his testimony in there, and when he called the happiest time of his life. And because of me just simply being obedient to the Father, again, talking about these little things that we don't know how they're going to affect, then went out to, thousands of other people and had an impact, as far as I know, could probably, still impacting people today who are affected by cancer. Hello, Kitty. But,
yeah,
that was just my testimony, small testimony again, Josh and Christina, exactly why you're on here. By being obedient, we don't know the impact, to your point, that we can have on people. If we don't understand and know exactly how the ripple effect is going to go out, don't you want to be careful with your words? Don't you want to be careful with what you put out there?
Yeah.
Don't you want to be a blessing to somebody and that be a reward versus some nasty, rude comment or thing, going forth? Do you really want to sow that into the world with your words and your actions? Mike and I, we well know that we disagree on the rapture, but my audience knows dang good and well, don't mess with my brother Mike in my presence because you will get hurt. I will not stand for it.
Right.
He is, I have, on two hands, less than two hands, people that I rely on and count on as dear brothers. I consider him my pastor today.
Yeah.
And because he's one of them. But you can't have the conversations, and I've shared this before either. You cannot have the conversations about disagreements with brothers if they think that you're coming at them to try to beat them in the head with your position.
That's right.
Right.
You can have that. You can have that conversation with a friend, somebody who you can trust, who if you talk to privately, they're not going to go blabbing everything that you think and say in that private conversation out there, everybody. And there you can sharpen each other and say, look, you're my brother. Have you ever considered this? Or what are your thoughts about this? Or why are you holding to this position? What makes you so sure of it?
That's right.
Honestly, Josh, I am so busy and my conversations are so purposeful when I do talk to these folks. We never get around to having those conversations anyway. So
same here.
It's really mostly a moot point because all of us are really too busy trying to, go forth and do our jobs for the kingdom to worry about those little disagreements. But they don't interfere with our ministry or our friendship or our fellowship.
Yeah, because there are deeper truths. I mean, there's deeper truths than that. I mean, like, because even you and I mean, there are, and I would, in the grand scope of everything that Jesus says is important, I would consider them trivial. We got little disagreements. That's why I kind of made a flat earth joke earlier. It wasn't, I'm cool. Because we're friends. So, it's not a personal dig on you. No. If anything, it's a commentary on like there are people that will actually get mad at each other about that. And like, we're not that, you and I, have a different opinion on that, but it doesn't factor into our friendship at all. And the cool thing is, we don't avoid that as a topic. Like, we could totally talk about that and it's like absolutely fine. Like, we've never argued about it at all. And I love that. Like, like with the rapture stuff, I lean towards pre-trib, but that doesn't mean that I am not open to. I'm not open. I'm not what closed. I guess that's the unopened view. I'm not closed off.
That's the opposite of open.
Yeah, that's the opposite. I'm not closed off to the flat Earth world view. I just, I don't know. I've often said, I could be wrong. The main reason that I backed off the flat Earth stuff and I didn't take it seriously was because of not you, but other people treating it like it was its own religion. You never did that. Mm-hmm. I have a couple of friends. I have a few friends
we have
that
very few friends.
Yeah, that
we can discuss it with.
Yeah, that are flat Earth people, and they're just great about it. You're one of them, and like I like the idea. Like, I like hearing about it. It's interesting to me. But the way that some people treated it as like its own religion, like that. Well, kind of bother, but the main point being is like we can disagree on that, and it's not a personal thing. Like, you got your belief, I got mine, but it's not. It has nothing to do with how we feel about each other personally. We're both brothers in Christ. The opinion that we both have that really matters is that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior, and He's the one on the throne, and He is who we serve. We don't serve flat Earth. We don't serve sphere Earth, or whatever my view is. I don't even know what to call it. But I don't serve that. I don't serve scientism, and you don't serve the other thing that you believe. Like we serve Jesus, right. And like that's the most important thing. And I think that's like. That's the main message. I think that people like you and I know you've been doing this on your show forever, and I applaud you for that, because thank God there's somebody else besides me that's talking about this. But you've been talking about too for a long time that, like, look, guys, the most important thing, like, we can have our opinions and we can debate them, but don't take it personally. Like, we all serve Jesus. That is the most important thing. Jesus Christ is the most important thing that we should all rally under. And like, I love that about you, and I love that about this whole series that you've been doing today. I mean, you've got so many amazing people with this whole thing with Nathan and everything, and despite any differences that all of us might have, we're all brothers in Christ, because we all realize we're serving Jesus. We're not serving our pet theories. And I'll admit it, I got my own pet theories. I have them too. We all have them. That's totally fine. Multiverse stuff, pet theory, but I really appreciate that about you, Chad.
Along these lines, where Chris wanted me to bring up something along the similar lines to the thing we're talking about here. But when you I don't know if you're seeing the chat there, but when you said, I'm open to the idea, it's just not, that's not what I'm at. You don't talk about when it comes to flat Earth. Chris says, Chris says, so you're saying there's a chance.
I see it. I giggled. I was like, that's hilarious.
Yes.
I love it.
There's a chance.
But anyway.
There's always a chance.
What I look at, though, what I really look at, and I'll tell you what, Chad, you and like a couple other friends that I have, Dave Downan's another one. I know nobody knows who this guy is. This is a good guy. This is a good friend, Dave Downan. And I give him a shout out whenever I can when this topic comes up, because he's such a good example of how none of this has to be divisive, because he's a flat Earth guy, and I think he's like a partial preterist or something. Which I'm not.
He watched that show with you that you did that 6-hour interview with Brian Godawa.
That's right.
He's
I accidentally made a partial preterist out of somebody, but no, it's funny. Like I did this like 5.5 hour long. It was a conversation. It wasn't really an interview. It wasn't really a debate, but it was a conversation with Brian Godawa. You had him on earlier today, and he talked a little bit about it. And he said that meant a lot to him, and it meant a lot to me too. We just had a really good conversation about our different. Well, it wasn't even about our differences. It was just about what he believed and what I believed. I'm more on the futurist side. He's more on the partial preterist side. And so we just talked about like our different, theories about eschatology. And it was a really fun conversation. I loved it. It was great. And one of my good friends ended up watching that, and he became a partial preterist for it. And fine. I mean, great. I mean, to him, like he says it brought him closer to the Lord. Then great. That's amazing. That's awesome. Like, I love that. And to me, that says, okay, well, maybe I need to sharpen some of my futurist arguments because they weren't convincing enough, and that's okay. That's good. But that's good. Like, because I'm on the futurist side, and he's so Dave. He is. I guess he's the preterist thing now, which is fine. That's awesome. He's a flat Earth guy. I know you are too.
He just needs to get my book. He just needs to get my book now that will just totally destroy that argument. So
exactly.
We'll have him really messed up.
But the reason I bring him up is because like this is a guy that like nobody would know. Like he's just a normal, just average kind of guy. He's just a good friend. But he's been following me forever.
Yeah.
And we like the friendship that me and this just random guy have is so much stronger than our differences. I mean, it reminds me of when Paul talked about how, like, the treasures in heaven, all the amazing things in heaven, they're so good that they are not worthy to be compared to the evils of the world. That's kind of how I feel about this kind of stuff. It's like the fellowship that we should have as brothers in Christ should not be worthy to be compared to the hatred that goes around because people disagree about different things. And so when people ask, like, is there a chance? Of course there's a chance. Yeah, there's a chance. Who knows? I'm not totally opposed to the idea. I never have been. I've always said that there's always but what I didn't like about it is the people representing it. And I know that the people representing something doesn't define the thing itself. It doesn't. Right. Because there's a lot of atheists that will not go for Christianity because of some terrible Christians that have represented Christianity poorly. So I get that. But when I saw the fruits of just how it became its own religion, and it was basically like a battering ram against anybody that would disagree with it. Not you, not Dave, not the friend, not the friends that I have. That
the minority with the loudest voice.
The minority with the loudest voice. I became disinterested in the topic. Yes. And it wasn't even that I was opposed to the idea. It's just the whole topic altogether. I was like, all right, well, if this becomes like a topic of research to me, I'm going to have to deal with that. And is that really what I want to do with my time? And I couldn't justify, with what God is calling me to do. I just couldn't justify making the time to deal with all of the garbage around it. And again, I very much reiterate, you're not of that. You are not of that. But all it would be is if I entertained flat Earth, it would only be me coming out against all it would be is the same message I'm preaching today. Look, don't hate people. Love people if they don't believe in. Even if I was the biggest flat Earth believer in the world, even if I was, my message would be the same. It would be the exact same as what I'm saying today. It would be: do not hate people that disagree with you. Reason with them. Love them. We're supposed to love our enemy even when they persecute us. So how much more to our own brothers in Christ, despite the fact we disagree on the shape of the earth? That it would be my same message. So, the people that like say, is there a chance? Yeah, there's a chance, but my message isn't going to change. My message is going to be the same. It doesn't really matter if I'm sphere Earth or flat Earth. It doesn't matter. My message is going to be the exact same. Love your brother in Christ. Stop persecuting your brother because he disagrees with you. Yeah. That is stupid. It just is. It's evil. It's wrong. Love your brother in Christ.
Yep. And just a couple weeks ago, or last week, we noticed a difference together, and you posted on this. Chris he posted in the chat, wanted me to remind you. We noticed a strong difference in this, and this was actually something that blew up or became a discussion, which I had people watch my show attacking Christina for, is that this year, Passover. You made a post about Passover. What a great difference it was this year.
Yes.
In the approach that many people had taken this year, for whatever reason. I'm praising God for it.
I can tell you the exact reason. Yeah.
In a loving way and in a manner that, and I agree, there's like, you know what? This is pretty cool. The way they're talking about this, or the way this has been presented. Yeah, I mean, this is, of course, I've been doing it for a little while now, but I saw too, not the negative connotation post or the this or that post, but just people presenting from the scriptures what it says, and then what they were doing, and how much fun they were having at doing it.
Yes,
Mind
exactly.
blown.
You know what it
Mind
was?
blown.
The argument.
What an original thought.
Right. The
Yeah.
argument was not, for some reason this year it changed. I think coronavirus had something to do with it, but what it was this year is it wasn't anti-Easter, it was pro-Passover. And that made such a difference. I even did a Twitter poll, just for my own followers. I have like 5,000 something, so not a lot, but I have a few. And I asked, like, how many of you are celebrating Passover for the first time this year? And I gave like 3 different options. It was like Passover as always, Easter as always, or Passover for the first time. Now, like 80%, or maybe it was like 70%, something like that, was like Easter as always. All right, fine. That's what most people do. Okay, get that. But there was like 15% of just a random people where they said this was the first year that they were celebrating Passover. What makes this year different than any other year? What convinced that 15%? And I know it's a very small focus group, so it's not, indicative of the entire culture. But
it's your sample group. It's the sample group you have.
What convinced them? Why is this year so much different than any other year? Because this year, I didn't see a whole lot of anti-Easter stuff, but what I did see was a lot of very loving pro-Easter or pro-Passover stuff. Where it was, people were saying like, hey, you're at home with your family, we're all going through this together. It's kind of rough. There's a lot of hopelessness. If you've never celebrated Passover, you might want to try it this year. Give it a shot. Here's what you do. And they would just tell people about it. And it wasn't anti-Easter. It wasn't, here's all the pagan things that you evil Christians are doing. It wasn't any of that. It was just, hey, if you've never tried this, maybe give this a shot because, me and my family really like it and you might like it too. And 15% was convinced this year above any other year that was the thing to do. That was amazing to me. 15% might not sound like a lot to a lot of people, but I bet that if I did that poll last year, it wouldn't have been anywhere close to that. Maybe 0.5%. I mean, I'm just speculating, but the whole point is the messaging. Do you want to be loving or hating? Do you want to hate Easter or do you want to love Passover? Mm-hmm. Because the love stuff, that is going to convince people. When you focus on what's actually true, what's actually real. And I know people say, well, yeah, but Easter is pagan, that's true too.
Yeah, we don't have to go into the arguments. Yeah.
Right, but fine. Maybe it's true. But are you dealing in hate or are you dealing in love? Because it's also equally as true to say that all the Passover stuff is totally applicable to Christians, that Christians would have really, a deeper spiritual experience celebrating Passover than they would Easter. Is that going to be more powerful, or is you're a dirty, nasty Christian if you would dare look at an Easter egg, all that stuff? What's more convincing? I have seen more converts to the pro-Passover side this year than I've ever seen. And every year I get sick of it. I mean, every year around Easter time, Christmas too, that's another one. But I know it's coming. I know we're going to get the meme war. There's going to be 1,000 memes about, how these holidays are evil and terrible. And it's like, oh, we got to deal with this again. But I was so encouraged this year because of the pro-Passover stuff. If we did pro things, man, we would win so many more hearts. Mm-hmm. We would win so many more minds. That is going to convince somebody. Hatred won't. People don't like hate. Newsflash. People don't like hate. And I would say that about any position, whether it's flat earth, whether it's multiverse, whether it's whatever. You frame it in love. You're going to convince some people, but if you frame it in hate, you're not going to convince anybody. And people just, all they're going to come away with is that you're a sanctimonious, egotistical person who's full of himself. And that's all you're going to convince people of, even if what you're saying is technically true. Which there's a lot of anti-Easter stuff that's not true, but some of it is. But even if what you're saying is technically true, if you frame it in that way, no one's going to be convinced. You can tell the same level of truth with love on the pro side. Do pro Passover, do pro What's the Christmas alternative? Hanukkah? I don't know.
Hanukkah.
Do pro that. Just do the pro version. Actually, and that's why people like you, Chad, and my friend Dave. That's what has made you or made me actually think about the flat Earth stuff, because you're not anti-sphere Earth. You're pro your view, and you talk about the beauty and how it connects with Scripture, and you talk about all the good things that have come from that. Brian Goodell was the same way with his preterist stuff. I'm not a partial preterist at all. I'm like a total futurist guy. But there is so much beauty in like what he says and his interpretation of Scripture. It's like, oh my gosh, I could actually maybe see that as being true. Maybe it is. Let's talk about it for 5 hours, and let's see. And that's what we did, and it was really good. It was just a good conversation. The pro stuff that will win hearts and minds if you have a view, and if you can put yourself aside, deny your own pride, talk about the pro stuff of your side. Don't talk about the anti your enemy. Don't talk about that. It's not going to get you anywhere. Like when I witness to people and I try to tell people about Jesus, I don't talk about how horrible the atheists are. Yeah, what a terrible tactic that would be. Because those are the people that I want to reach. I want to love them, and I want to share the gospel with them. I don't want to tell people how terrible they are. Like it's beside the point. The point is, God is so good, he can save anybody. And that's the amazing part of this whole thing. So any issue that you have, any opinion you have, if you really believe in it, talk about the pros of that view. Don't talk about the anti version of your view, because all that's doing is showing your own pride.
Yeah, I got another question. Christina, now you've had a chance then. You're not just Josh's wife. You've had a chance to both.
She is just Josh's wife. That's all she is. Come on, Chad.
I know.
I'm sorry, Chad.
But you've had a chance to be both ministering as he did in the beginning of Skywatch, and then now more so behind the scenes in witnessing stuff. So you've got a good perspective on this. When you see Josh getting attacked today, or being, how does that? What is your? I mean, I think it should be obvious, but what is your reaction to that? And then how do you guys as a family together deal with those kind of things? I imagine it's not such an ordeal today because you guys had enough experience that you've learned in that, but it's still hurtful, is it not? When you see people attacking your husband?
Yeah, it is. It's I do feel I'm upset, when I'll watch a video of or later on he'll mention something about somebody in the comments, because he'll look at the comments and I'll take a look, and it's just really hurtful, to hear that. Read it about somebody that you love and you care about.
Just real quick, it's not hurtful because the person is attacking me. It's hurtful that the church is in a state that this stuff is allowed. So it's not. I don't care about the personal attack. It's just that the church is the church is in a state where this stuff is allowed and even encouraged.
Yeah,
that's the hard part. Anyway,
it is really hard, and where Josh can't, where the state of the church is, that if somebody says a different opinion or how they interpret something, they have to automatically go off and blast him for whatever reason. It is hurtful. It is hurtful that's on many different levels. I'm not going to lie that when I read that, it's kind of hurtful to me to read it. It may not bother Josh the same way, but that's my husband you're talking about. I mean, Josh and I have this thing. It's like, yeah, you can say whatever you want about he and I.
The individual to me.
And that's fine. But some people have tried to bring our kids into it, and that's where I draw the line. That's where Mama Bear comes out, and I'm brutally honest.
Oh my gosh, and she's Jewish. You don't want to mess with.
I
Oh
am a
my gosh,
Jewish mother.
you do not want to mess with that. Like she is harsh.
Stereotypes are true. My mother was Jewish.
She is so
You
much
don't wanna mess
harsher
with
than
her
I am
either.
online. Like
I am very brutal and I'm very honest, and I'm not going to apologize for it. But
I'm Irish. I'm a little more apologetic, but like she will not hold back. Like
I won't.
You know, hey, John Monroe, I see you, brother. I've always told people, my chat knows this too, but I have relationships with people, not theologies.
That's
exactly.
I hope that
Same.
most people that, and Josh, interviewing some of these people, like there's some of them I knew, some of them were really close friends, with. I didn't know Michael Heiser, and he probably had no idea who I was before the interview. Mike Spalding, a dear friend. Paul McGuire and Troy Anderson, I was aware of their materials. I knew of them because of the work that they'd done. Paul McGuire, actually just on public TV, on doing Fox News. I'd heard his names before. And then, of course, being on Skywatch, and then. So I got to know them. I've got follow-up conversations I get to have now with Paul McGuire and Troy, specifically Paul, but he and I have conversations we're wanting to follow up with on each other because he's now aware of my book and stuff like that and what he's working on now. It's
awesome.
Really cool. I get to talk to him about that. Whether it'll help him or not, I don't know, but I get to have follow-up questions with him. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Jim Barfield. Again, I found out he and I have a lot of things that we believe and see similarly as far as Passover and everything. Had no clue, would have had no clue prior to talking to him. Now he's a good country boy. I found out he's a good country. He's an old country boy out in
yes, he is.
Oklahoma. I get to have more conversations with him. I have so many people now that I want to talk to in just a short list and get back to that. I'm like a kid in a candy store now wanting to talk to these brothers. Ryan Peterson, I hadn't known before. Again, another good brother on here that interested in the very same topics that you and I and guys, Mark, the things that get our gears going when it comes to the stuff that the church, normally doesn't talk about. Lisa Haven, I heard of her, heard her on the Hagman and Hagman report, got to meet her. What a fireball she is. She did awesome in her interview as well. By the way, you want to talk about YouTube's being blamed. Before we did all these recordings, right? And I had set them up privately to air today, which I want to explain something to the chat too, because they had questions I hadn't time to answer. But I set them up privately to air later. Originally scheduled for last weekend. Before it could even be seen, before it could even air, YouTube flagged it as not suitable for advertising or for children or advertising. Even though we had already put on there, all the following their guidelines, I had marked all their guidelines, making sure to set up, and they still wanted to flag it because it was Lisa Haven, who's on some blacklist somewhere.
Yeah, we are too now.
Oh, apparently. But anyway, Doug Woodward, he and I are good buddies. He and I go.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He and I go back a ways. He and I, he's one of the first interviews I ever did. He was good friends with Doug. I was seeing him on emails and everything. Got his number long before, one of the first people and I. So Doug and I was just really buddies, getting to hang out for a while and have a conversation about what he's doing, what he's working on now in front of the camera versus on the phone as we normally would. L.A. Marzulli, I don't know if did you watch my interview with him?
Yes.
Today?
Yep. That was the first one that we watched.
Saw, but I wanted to share with you guys that too. Okay, so you shared your testimony with how you ran across L.A. Marzulli's and then of course Tom's and materials.
And I saw yours too, and that was amazing. I didn't know that he had that much of an impact on you as well, and that's amazing.
Well, see, here's the other thing about that. So he had that influence, and even though I had called him up and talked to him years ago, because Rose arranged it, I was just going to share some stuff with him. He didn't have time to talk when I talked to him. I'm sure he didn't remember him. But because of our other mutual friend, Mike Spalding, I spoke at the conference, Go Therefore, last year, 2019, I spoke at the Go Therefore conference, of which L.A. Marzulli was also a presenter. So I got to do something that very few people in this world got to do. I got to be on stage in front of an audience and thank him personally and share the research that, had he not done what he'd done, would have never been presented, and had the privilege and the honor of being able to hear him afterwards say, man, that's great research, great stuff. Send me your book. We can talk about that. It's like,
that's amazing.
It's like, really? The guy who impacted my life and changed the direction, had a hand in being the person God used to change the direction forever that my life would go in, I get to present to him, and then I get to tell him in front of an audience of how the Father used him. It's like, how many people get that chance or take that opportunity?
That's right.
With somebody, it's just like, man. But the marathon, blessings all around.
Right. And yeah, I mean, we probably should. I know that we've taken so much time with just the first two people. We can just run through real quickly with everybody else. I mean, Paul McGuire and Troy Anderson. The first time that we met these guys, they came to Skywatch to record a couple of programs on Trumpocalypse, and we had dinner with them. Got along with them great, but what was great about them is they actually followed up with us later, and they both wanted to, still do stuff, keep in contact and everything. They're both great. Really felt a good connection with both of them. Jim Barfield, I'm going to throw Jim Barfield and Shelley Neese into the same thing here really quick, because right when we found out Nathan had cancer, right before that, I had scheduled an interview with Jim Barfield and Shelley Neese about the Copper Scroll Project. And Shelley Neese had been at Skywatch already, so I got to meet her. I hadn't known Jim yet. But right after that Skywatch interview and right before our interview together, Nathan got diagnosed. So we had the interview on the books. And then I had to, we all had to go to Memphis for Nathan. And so I emailed them both and I told them what was going on, and I totally could have gotten out of the interview if I wanted to, but really I was in such a frazzled state of mind. I needed the normalcy. I needed to just do the show because it was normal and I felt used to it. And I wanted to talk to some people that I felt like were friends, even though I didn't know Jim at the time. I heard enough about him from Shelley that I felt like I would get along with him really well, which I did. And I had only met Shelley that one time, but I felt like she was a friend. And so, we ended up doing the interview anyway, and they were both saying, you can totally cancel this if you want. And I was like, no, I really just want to do the interview. So we did it. It was a great interview, but it really kind of gave me the opportunity to get to know them more. And since that time, Christina and Shelley have been able to be friends online, and we've stayed in contact. And actually, I should mention this: when somebody buys a membership to dailyrenegade.com, 20% of those proceeds, 20% of somebody's membership, they go to a variety of causes, two of which Shelley and Jim run. So ministering to the Jewish people in Israel to try to get them to know who the Messiah is. So the Jerusalem Connection, which Shelley mentioned in her interview, in the Copper Scroll Project, so what would it be? 10% of every membership goes to that. Then there's also St. Jude's, because they've taken such good care of Nathan. And then there's Created Equal, which is an amazing pro-life ministry. So 20% of proceeds from memberships go to those causes. So I can't say enough good things about Jim and Shelley. Lisa Haven, we had the honor of having dinner with her and her husband or fiance. I think it's husband, just this night.
Oh, really? Yeah, I know they were engaged. I'm not sure if they were
right.
I've been kind of out of the loop of a lot of things.
Yeah, we both have. But we had the pleasure of having dinner with them during a Hear the Watchman conference that we were both speaking at, and I think Lisa introduced me for my talk. I don't. Oh no, it was John B. Wells introduced me,
Yes.
but Lisa was another introductory speaker during that time. But we got to have dinner with them both. Lovely people. They actually got to see all of our kids, including Nathan, because we brought the whole troop. This was before Lily came along. So Adam was just a baby at the time, but they got to meet all of them, and they're just wonderful people. So it was really good getting to get to know them. Ryan Pitterson, he works with us at Daily Renegade. He produces the show, which is just phenomenal. He has such good stuff to say. Doug Woodward, he's been with me since the beginning. He was actually my breakout book, the one that got Tom Horn's attention, if that means anything to anybody. Quantum Creation. That was inspired by Doug Woodward. So Doug Woodward, he was already an established author at the time, and he was willing to talk to me, and so I asked him for some advice, and he said, well, find something that you're passionate about, but that's also like a niche that nobody's really talking about right now. Do you have anything like that? And I was like, well, I've always really liked quantum physics, and at the time, Chuck Missler was still alive. And I said, the only one that I know that's still, because I love Chuck Missler. And I was like, the only one that I know that's talking about it is Chuck Missler. I would love to, do something like that. But the only thing I notice is when I watch Chuck Missler's videos, sometimes I got to watch it 3 or 4 times to really understand, because he's so smart. Like, he was so intelligent, and it took a long time for me to really understand, what he was talking about. So Doug was like, well, hey, that's a niche that's something that people could really benefit from, maybe talk about quantum physics, but make it for the lay Christian. Is that something that is possible? And I was like, yeah, it's totally possible. I can do it in my own head, and I can put that in a book. And so Doug Woodward was a huge influence on me. And since that time, he's been a good friend. I'm so glad that he took part in this. Like, he's a good guy. L.A. Marzulli, I talked about that earlier today. He's a wonderful guy, and we're still friends. We still work together today. Gary Wayne, I first interviewed him years ago, and I didn't really know him. I mean, he what I like about Gary is a little more stoic. He's a little bit more like harder to read, but like I like that though, because he's really genuine. He is just exactly Gary Wayne. Like, just what he is.
Every time I see Gary, I don't know if you ever watch this or hear about it. Every time I see Gary, I'm wondering why he's not got a picture or actually in a library behind him.
Exactly.
I find it hard to picture Gary without him being in a library somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't think he ever goes outside. He's in a library somewhere. He's in a library.
Well, and he lives in Canada, so he doesn't have anything else to do.
He's got a smoking jacket. I don't know if he smokes a pipe or has a pipe or anything, but he's Gary in a library with a smoking jacket on, because
he must
like that.
Yeah, Gary, he must. Gary's awesome. I mean, he's absolutely brilliant. He knows what he's talking about, and he's another one of these just really genuine, just what you see is what you get kind of guys. I mean, people sometimes wonder, like, what's Gary Wayne like in person? And like, I've talked to him in person. Well, not in person, face to face, but like on the phone or, outside of interviews and stuff. Cause we've been friends for years now. He's exactly what you would expect from his interviews. He's just a very intelligent, just individual. He knows what he's talking about. He's kind of stoic, which Mike Heiser is too. And I love that about them. I mean, he's great. I mean, and he's really easy to get along with because of that, because there's no games. I never have to worry, like, with some people, sometimes you make a friend and you wonder, like, are they just trying to get something out of me, or is there that's not these people, that's not them. I mean, he just is exactly what you see is what you get. And I love that. Brian Godawa, we talked about him. Shelley Neese, we talked. Dr. Michael Lake. All right. That's the last one here on the list. I would not be where I am today without Dr. Michael Lake. And that is not that. If anything, that's an understatement. It's not an overstatement. Michael Lake, I didn't know it, but so I told you about how quantum creation came to be, you know, and Doug Woodward helped inspire that. And so that book was out. I didn't know, but Dr. Michael Lake read that book, and then he also read the follow-up to that, Cherubim Chariots, which actually both of them are available now in like an updated version called Unraveling the Multiverse, which people can find on skywatchtvstore.com if they're interested. But but I didn't know. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know I didn't know of Michael Lake at the time. I wasn't familiar with him, but I saw him on one of the very first Skywatch TV episodes, which I was one of the first episodes too. And so we kind of met through that, but he was already familiar with my work. And so I invited him on for an interview. We did a really good interview, and I found him to be very just enjoyable to be around, extremely intelligent, but I mean, he just has like a personality that could light a room. He's so easy to get along with, and he's
so approachable.
Yeah, he's very approachable. Yeah, and he's a breath of fresh air, and he's another one of these that what you see is what you get. The same way that he is on a show, that's how he is in person. He will hold very strong to his convictions, which is great, but he's so easy to get along with. I remember when I came to Skywatch, we made a detour to where he is in Missouri, and we had dinner with he and his wife and Mary Lou, which was that was so much fun.
And his daughter.
And his daughter, and it was basically the whole family. It was a lot of fun, and I remember this was a very telling time for me because I know he's very much like Hebrew kind of stuff, which is fantastic. And I'm still kind of, I'm sort of in between, I guess. I don't know where I am.
We can talk about it some other time offline.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. It's totally fine. But all I was going to say is that he ordered his steak well done. And to me, that's like, why would you ever do that when medium rare is a thing? So we were just having a fun conversation. And so I was like, because I didn't know. I really didn't know at the time. And I was like, is that a biblical thing? Like, what is that? And he said, well, there's stuff in the Old Testament about not eating blood. And I didn't know at the time. I had no clue about that. And I was like, oh, wow. I didn't know that. So I looked into it more, and it was a really interesting study. And I thank Michael Lake for that. But he was the one that actually suggested to Tom Horn that he read my books, Cherubim Chariots and Quantum Creation, because he was already familiar with them.
Yeah,
I would not
came down.
I would not be where Tom would not know about me had it not been for Michael Lake. He has been such a good friend, and even he has never personally came out against me on anything that we disagree on, because we're brothers in Christ, and that's what's most important. And I can't say enough good about him. Like, and I know I keep saying that about all these guys, but it's just the truth. I mean, yeah, you've interviewed some wonderful people, Chad. Like you really have, and you yourself are in that list, my friend.
Oh, definitely.
Don't do it. I don't do it for that, but I just think we all ought to do our parts with what we can. And as much as you guys have done for all of us, as you mentioned, for Mike Spalding being a voice, bold enough to talk about the things you're passionate about. Like I said, your whatever you thought about your little interview. Again, not the point for me. The point was I was encouraged that you took what you had and you did something with it.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. And that meant so much to us, because this is not for those watching. This is not a guy that was like thinking like, oh, these people have connections. It wasn't that. Like, Chad just came to us one day and was like, I really feel called by the Lord to do this for you.
We were
and
still in the
I just want to do it. Do I have your? The only thing Chad asked at first was just for permission.
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, absolutely. And then we were the ones that were saying, hey, if you want some contacts, like, we can help you out with that. Mm-hmm. Like, he wasn't in it for that. He was like, this is not something for Chad where it's like, I want to, meet people. It wasn't anything like that. Like, he was just going to do it anyway. And he was just asking for permission. And we were like, oh my gosh, like, that means so much to us. Absolutely. Like, of course you have our permission, and then we want to help as much as we can. So it was just a really cool thing that, this idea that you had, and it's already helped out a lot. And, I'll say just today, we've been getting some donations that's really going to help Nathan. And
Yes.
I really like how you framed it, that you didn't put a cap on it, because you're like, well, if we reach the cap, then people will stop donating. And because we don't know what the cap is. And that's I think you've been able to communicate that really well. We don't know what the cap is. Nathan is going to go through this at least until he's 18. And he's going to have some remnant of it,
Right. Consecutively
yeah.
over the next 85 weeks. But, one thing that we're very thankful for about, what St. Jude does is once he's in there for life. They will follow him. Like any repercussions he might have, they'll since he's part of that family now, he'll be there. And we're very thankful for St. Jude for that. But, it is going to be they're I believe that he is going to be healed completely without any repercussions. But they talk about certain things. He has a very sensitive stomach after treatments and things like that, so he's got to be very careful. But some of the things that I've been doing naturally have been helping ease some of those complications. So and through prayer, ultimately I do believe that he is going to be completely healed and not have any repercussions of.
Well, you guys are part of another family now. You're part of the Take on the World family. You're my brothers and sisters, and the folks.
Well, hey, brother, you're part of the Daily Renegade family as well. I mean, you're right there with us.
and our folks know that. And I just wanted to, again, the simple interactions that we had in the past before anything happened impacted me. As I've said, that you've been kind and friend. I've loved your approach to people and topics, and I've felt your frustration, at other times about even people that I agreed with. I was not happy with people that I agreed with the way they had treated you. It's like, come on, guys. Not helping us here.
Same here. There's people that I've agreed with that I haven't liked how they treated you too. And and that's one thing, just on the last point with Dr. Michael Lake, that I really love about him is he's never made any of that personal. And like, I love that. That has been such an inspiration to me.
I actually had him on the show on Disputed Lands because of his ability to be a mediator.
He's wonderful. Yeah,
camps and things of that nature. That's inspired, and he is a great example for anybody to model themselves who wants to be that kind of a person who can,
someone we can all learn from
between people. Then there's a good example of the Christ-like nature of how to mediate.
Yes.
People.
Yes. I mean, I would point people to Dr. Michael Lake before I would even point them to myself. I mean, he is such a good example of that. I mean, he is like with just like the kind of how to love your brother in Christ. He's where I want to be when I grow up. That's kind of how I look at it. I mean, Dr. Lake's awesome. I love Michael to death. I just couldn't say enough good about him or his family, and just the influence they had on us, and really how much they've even influenced just how we run ministry. A lot of my whole love stuff, really a lot of that comes from him, most of it even.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's going to be more interviews, and I guess we'll wrap it up. I'm so thankful that the connecting the second time allowed us to talk without interference here. But as far as both of you go, Christina, I imagine you're just going to continue being a mom going forward and taking care of the son. If there's outside stuff that you're going to be doing, perhaps ever get to think about working on a career again. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's on the immediate horizon or not, but let us know so we can pray for you.
Sure,
we're going to continue to pray for you as a mom.
Yeah, I try to do what I can for Daily Renegade. Trying to do more things with videos every time when I get the chance. If I ever get a chance, I did a couple, but doing things that like cooking for Nathan and the different meals that we do for him. And we've always been a healthy family, you know. We're never just shoved junk food down our kids' throat or anything. But it's even more so now, like the extra juicing that I do daily for him. I try to do videos every once in a while for Daily Renegade. But mostly I'm in the background right now, kind of taking care of Nathan.
We get it, but you should know that just because you're in your background doesn't mean you're in the back of at the back of everybody's minds. We love you, and we pray for you, and we know, I know the moms out there also know, you know, it's not easy being a mom and having 50 different hats you got to wear, you know, throughout the day, you know, businesswoman, mother, you know, baker,
yeah,
you know, cook, you know, nursery teacher, you know, all this. We know,
teacher.
Even if we can't comprehend, we do as fathers understand on a certain level exactly what you go through, and we're praying for you. We love you. Josh, I don't know what you have coming up this year. Is there anything you can share with us?
Yeah. Okay.
Of a teaser that we can expect coming out this year that you're working on?
I wanted to save this for your audience, Chad, because I can't offer much. You know, I've been telling people I have something in the works that's going to be really big, and it is, and it's not an ego thing. It is. And I wanted to share some of that with your audience, and it's just because you've done such an amazing thing for us. I mean, how else can I repay you? I have not talked about this at all. So I want to talk about it with you. So, and I'll make it brief, but so the most recent thing that people are, you know, might be familiar with, I just wrote a book called Afterlife, and I wrote it with my co-host Donna Howell from Chalk Talk, and then also her sister, another one of Tom Horn's daughters, Allie Anderson Henson. We wrote Afterlife, What Really Happens After You Die. And since the writing of that book, I mean, the cool thing about this job, like what I love about it so much, is that it is one project after another, which is amazing. I am venturing into kind of new territories for myself. And it's not only in terms of topic, but also medium. So I've been mostly writing books and things. I'm doing a movie, and I'll tell your audience more than I've ever said before, but I do have to be really careful. It's not an exaggeration.
We don't want you in trouble.
There seriously are people that have been killed for this kind of thing, and I am not. For those who know me, I'm not that guy. Like, I'm not the guy that says, oh, my project's gonna get me killed. Like, I never have said that ever.
No.
Nobody cares about like nobody cares enough to kill somebody over a multiverse, or, you know, over
nobody cares about a multiverse,
a cherubim chariot or whatever I've talked about in the past. But this is one where that's a real possibility, and Christina and I have had to take some special measures to make sure. And so when the project comes out, I would love to come on your show and talk about it in full. But I will say right now, just to keep it kind of, you know, to give your audience a little bit more, but to keep it, you know, just we got to protect ourselves. But if people liked the Out of Shadows documentary that has just hit, and it's gotten really big, and thank God somebody is thank God there's something like that out there. Yep. If people liked that, man, you're gonna really get a lot. I don't want to say enjoy, because it's not a fun topic, but you're going to get a lot. You're going to be very informed by what we have coming out. And the good thing about this project, it is a documentary. I'll say that. And I actually have never said that public, so this is the first time. It's a documentary. It's on a topic that sort of has been talked about, but it's been just kind of brushed upon. There has not been an in-depth, real, like good documentary on this topic, and we're going there. And awesome. There's a lot of people in this movement to bring light to what's really going on in this topic, that they have lost their lives because of it. I've literally spent money to amp up our security in our home just because I don't know. And I'm not that guy. You can ask Christina. I'm the guy that's like, oh, it's not a big deal. People are just overreacting. Who cares? I'm that guy more than anything else.
Yeah.
But because of this, I mean, we've had to take some,
a little more.
yeah. Now I will say, like, I haven't been threatened. So I have not been threatened at all. So, hopefully I'm over exaggerating. That's my hope. But it's going to be really important. I will say, let's see how to frame. If people like Out of Shadows, if people like around about like an hour into that movie, if people like that, if people like found some good information there, they're going to love this. Hey, Corey Feldman is a guy that exists. I don't know. That was just a random thought that came into my head. I'm sure that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but I feel bad. I'm like making light of it. I'm not trying to make light. I got to be careful I got to be careful about like just how I frame things until the release. But the good thing about this project is, even if something were to happen right now, like to me, it's still going to get done. There's been so much of it done behind the scenes that it really doesn't matter. I mean, it matters to our family. I don't want anything to happen, but in terms of this project, it's going to come out. So it doesn't matter. If something from today on, if something bad were to happen to me, not saying it's going to, but if something did, it's still going to get released. We're that far in the process. So
Release date?
Now, I was originally saying probably around August. I think it's going to be sooner than that. I think it's going to be sooner, but there's still some things in the works that we'll see, but definitely by like third or fourth quarter this year, it should be out. If not sooner, we're going to try to get it out sooner, I think.
Okay.
But the project is so far down the line of being finished that whatever happens to me, it's out of my hands now. So, whatever, it's going to get done. Unless somebody like firebombs Crane, Missouri or something, but I don't see that happening, but no, I mean, it's that far along. So
let's not talk about that.
Yeah. So either way, it's at the point, and that's why I'm kind of comfortable talking about it now, is because it's so far down the line. We've been doing so much work behind the scenes without making any public statements about it, and like literally no one knows about this except for you guys and my Daily Renegade members. So people at dailyrenegade.com who have bought a membership, and their members, they know, they've actually known about this for a few weeks now, and they know a little bit more. But I have to be very careful what I say, like in public. But what I will say is, once this is out, man, I want to come on your show. I want to talk about it, and I don't want to hold anything back. I just, because at that point it's out, so it doesn't matter.
It's done. Well,
Did you know that Corey Feldman is a person?
Okay.
Do what? What?
Did you know that Corey Feldman is like he's a person? I'm just I'm spitballing. I mean, it doesn't have any relation to what we're talking about.
He's a real guy.
You want to get me killed?
He's not been made up. Absolutely.
Hey, no, yeah.
He exists as a human being. Anyway, Chad, what were you saying?
The things that he.
No. I was just saying. This has been a great time. I don't want to overextend this any more than we have.
Oh, I think I've already overextended your time. If I did, I apologize. I mean, we've been going on so long.
It was the internet's problem for screwing up the first hour of this and making it more difficult than it was.
Hey, I'm all on board with blaming the internet for all of the world's problems. Yeah, that is fine with me.
Yeah. The internet and the internet gremlins. It's all their fault. But thank you to those the Take on the World subscribers, and those who are finding Take on the World perhaps maybe for the first time because you are friends with one of these other guys and you saw that they were going to be interviewed and you came to check it out. Hey, thanks for coming. We ask that you stick around, maybe just hit the like and the subscribe and see what we're all about. Come back and see how we talk to people and what we do around here, and maybe you find out you like it. and you'll want to see more. That's fantastic. You found more brothers and sisters. Great. But to those of you who have with me, giving to them, thank you so much. That's what it was all about. And we got something accomplished today, down the road. Like I said earlier, maybe one of us is the person who's going to be in need. And wouldn't it be nice to know that you have friends who care?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice to know you got family who are going to love you and surround themselves around you and protect you if you're down?
That's what we're here for.
I don't know how people don't do it without it. We'll be in touch. We love you guys. Take care of those kiddos. We'll be in touch again. And Josh, you give me a call, give me a text anytime. When it's ready, when it's out, you say, hey, I'm ready to talk about it. We'll get you on the book, man.
I'll give you the full scoop. And thank you so much again, Chad. I mean, this sacrifice that you made, I've never done a marathon the way that you're doing now. I mean, the longest interview that I've ever done was maybe like 6 hours. I can't imagine doing a whole day. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't record those in all the day, but I can tell you
well, you've been planning this for months. I mean, yeah, it's a big deal.
When you do one interview a week, I've told these guys before, I don't like to do a half-hearted interview. I want to make sure that I'm well aware of the things that somebody's written or what they've talked about, at least have read a good portion of what they are, get to know as much as I can about the person from interviews that they've done. So there's a few hours invested in that. And people, as I've told you before, these shows just don't go up on YouTube by themselves.
Right.
I mean, it takes a little preparation to put all that together, to schedule it, to make sure the graphics are good and everything. You're talking a good hour. If things go well, it's an hour. If things don't go well, it's an hour and a half and 2 hours. Or if the graphic doesn't come together just as you want it, whatever. So, you're investing a good day's work for every one interview.
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah, definitely.
For at least me, and I'm just somebody doing part-time, but there was definitely more of a challenge to schedule some, 4 interviews in a week.
Yeah.
Thank you to Ian, who co-hosts with me on Disputed Lands, who filled in for those. Thank you to Chris and Liz, who allowed me to use the Take on the World platform to do this, and were gracious enough to let me have the break on the Monday nights when I normally did the show live to do it. I mean, I got people who helped me too. They pray for me. I want to give a shout out to my Disputed Lands prayer group. Josh, I don't know if you have this. I'm guessing that you do at the Daily Renegade. But something has been a tremendous benefit to me is I have a dedicated group of, and this was hard for me to seek after, but when I learned and saw how effective it was for the guys at TTB Through the Black, I was like, man, I gotta get that. But I got a small dedicated group of my people that they're the Disputed Land prayer warriors. They're the Disputed Land people that I rely on, who pray for me every day. These guys, are in a group, through Facebook chat. Thank you guys. I love you. I love you so much. If it wasn't for them, Josh, I couldn't do this.
Well, and that was the main reason I even brought up that project in the first place, is because I want to ask your audience to keep me in prayer. It wasn't just, I don't know what's going to happen. So, and I know you have an amazing prayer team behind you. And if anybody listening, if you can keep us in prayer just for whatever the enemy's going to throw at us, that would be amazing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
No, you're on. You just saying that our prayer group will be on it. I guarantee you, and they will not forget. So love you guys. We'll talk to you again soon. Get some rest. Love the kiddos, and we'll see you later. Everybody, this has been Disputed Lands, and this has been the end of a great day of the Josh and Christina Peck Marathon. Again, the link's below. We'll see you again on Monday with another special guest. Until then, love you. Shalom. Bye now.
Get right, get inside, get hungry, word of God appetite. Everlasting water, never again thirsty. To Disputed Lands, take a journey. Get right, get inside, get hungry, word of God appetite. Everlasting water, never again thirsty. To disputed lands, take a journey. Get right.